What's up, my dudes? Hey, don't worry, guys. Bam Bam's changed his ways. He's a different rider now, boys. Don't worry about it. Okay, so got a little bit of drama in the 2022 Supercross Anaheim 1 race. If you didn't already see the race, which most of you guys probably have. Let me see if I can get across this 2022 Anaheim 1 track here on Supercross 4. This is actually a custom track in the game. You can go find that if you type in Anaheim 1 2022. You can find that there. But yeah, so I know there's a lot of drama around this. A lot of people are saying Barcia was totally in the wrong. You know, oh my God, Barcia just took dude out, like whatever the case may be. Okay, so here's my thing on this, right? So racing is racing, obviously. We can never forget about that, okay? And I'm a firm believer in handle it on the track. You'll get what's coming to you. You know what I mean? And that's so, I just want to make that loud and clear that, like, I don't think there should be any kind of suspension for what Barcia did. I don't think there should be any kind of, you know, nothing like that. But I really feel like what's happened in Justin Barcia's career, the way he's rode over his whole career, the way he's taken people out and stuff like that, I think that has contributed to, like, the karma of his career, if you can understand what I'm saying. I don't think, like, people have necessarily taken out Justin Barcia, you know, have necessarily, like, retaliated and taken out Justin Barcia as much as just the karma of it has caught up to Justin Barcia's career. You know what I mean? For racing people that way. I really think that has, I mean, I know that may sound crazy, but, like, I think life is all about karma, dude. You know what I mean? I'm a firm believer in that. And I think that has been somewhat of a contributing factor to the way Barcia's career has kind of went. But nonetheless, if anything, I think that the way Barcia passed Anderson was just unnecessary. That's kind of the way I would have looked at it. Just unnecessary. It's one thing, you know, if it's the last lap or it's like whatever, you know. Let me see if I can stay off the tough blocks here. It's one thing if it's the last lap or whatever the case may be, but like that right there, I mean, obviously Jason Anderson was faster. There really ain't no question about that. He passed Barcia clean as he could on a track that's as tight as that track was. And then the first second Barcia has a chance to retaliate, he runs it up in there. Right? That's basically what happened right there. And again, that's okay for people to do that. You're welcome to race however you want to race, right? But at the exact same time, you know, you get what's coming to you. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things like, I don't know, like, this is a weird situation where, like, I get it, you know, racing is racing, rubbing's racing, but it really looked more like, to me, that it was one of those situations like Barcia realized, oh shit, I'm about to get passed right, I got passed right here straight up, dude just straight went around me, and if I don't take him out, I'm probably not going to get a podium in this race. That's what it looked more like to me. Do you know what I mean? And when it comes to Supercross, and that certainly was not like one of the craziest Barcia takeouts I've ever seen in my life. It wasn't anything like that, you know. I mean, I don't even know how much contact they really made in the corner necessarily, but nonetheless, I mean, it was just one of those situations, and some people need to realize kind of how this works in Supercross, especially in the 450 class. Like, anytime somebody passes somebody, the dude that got passed can basically retaliate in the very next corner no matter what. You know what I mean? That's always, like, just the way these tracks are, they could retaliate in the next corner. But it all comes down to the should you retaliate? Yeah, like is it worth retaliating? Should you do it at that moment? But my point being by saying that is anybody can retaliate on anybody by getting past. They can retaliate in that very next corner. But for the most part, most of the time, you got to have the race etiquette in the 450 class to know, like, especially if it's not down to the wire of the last few laps of a race, or it's not like the last lap or something like that. You got to know how it's kind of a cheap move to do that, where somebody finally passes you clean, gets around you clean, and then you just run it right up in there, your first chance in the very next corner. You know, it gets to a point where it's like, it's kind of a dick move in Supercross in a way. That's kind of the way I would explain that, right? But there's also another way of looking at this. This is what makes Supercross what it is, you know? If you didn't have the Justin Barcias and all these kind of boys, it wouldn't be as fun to watch, would it? So, you know what I mean? You can't hate on it too much. I was bummed for Anderson because he finally got him a good ride going. First race on the Cowie. It's been a long time since we've seen Anderson ride like that. He had it all right there in front of him. He easily could have got second place in that race. So it was a bummer in that sense, but like at the end of the day, I mean, was it like way crazy of a pass, or I mean way crazy of a takeout? Not really. I think people may be over-exaggerating just a little bit on that. If you go back and watch it, it really wasn't that crazy. But at the same time, I just think that was pointless for Barcia to run it in there like that. You know what I mean? Right after Anderson passed him. It's like, bruh. Like, yeah, anybody can do that. You can be literally fucking like, you know, anybody. You can be a 20th place 450 dude in the main event, and, you know, Roxon can pass you in a corner, and you can run it right back in there on him in the very next corner. That doesn't take any skill to do that. You know what I mean? That's just what the nature of how tight, especially this 2022 Anaheim 1 track was. Good Lord, man. This was just one of those tracks where it was almost like so hard for the person to, damn, that track drifts to the left right there. I keep crashing right there, bro. It was like one of those tracks where it was really hard for, like when somebody passed somebody, it was hard for them to get away from the guy behind them. You know what I mean? It was like hard for them to get enough distance from the guy behind them to where they could prevent a instant retaliation like what Barcia did right there. It's like the way, I really wasn't a big fan of that track design, that Anaheim 1 track design. I'm just going to be honest with you, man. The real-life Anaheim 1 track design, I was not the biggest fan of that. It was designed in a way to where it allowed stupid situations like what Barcia did right there. It made shit like that too easy to happen. You know what I mean? And I get they're trying to make passing opportunities and everything like that, but like it gets to a point where it's like, you know, Anderson was clearly faster. He passes him clean, but then can't fucking get away from him. You know what I mean? Can't get away from him enough. And it wasn't because Barcia was going fast enough. That's not what it was. It was because of how tight the track was and the way the corners were. It just made it to where Anderson could not get away from him properly. You know what I mean? That's what it looked more like to me than anything. But definitely let me know down in the comments what you guys think. You know, it doesn't shock me to see something like that from Barcia, but I think Barcia is about one of the only top dudes in the 450 class that would have instantly retaliated on Anderson like that. You know what I mean? I think he's one of the only ones that would have tried to make a pass like that at that current moment in time. This wasn't the last lap. This wasn't for the lead. You know what I mean? It was just unnecessary. I feel like that's really... Now, if Barcia would have like set Anderson up in the next 3 or 4 corners after the corner that he took him out in and was able to catch back up to him and pass him in that sense, that's a completely different story. You know what I mean? But when they do this thing where they get past clean and then they instantly retaliate, they instantly run it as far inside in a corner as they possibly can and basically get to where they almost T-bone the guy in the very next corner, that's where it's a little bit overkill in my opinion. That's where it's a little bit like, was that really necessary? You know? And it just, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at on that. But if Barcia would have, like I'm saying, kind of regrouped a little bit, realized that he just got his ass passed straight up, right? And then tried to latch on to Anderson, caught back up to Anderson in the next 3 or 4 corners, and then he ran it in like that, I think it would have been more acceptable. But like I'm saying, when you have those moments where they just instantly run it back in on him in the very next corner, that's where it's not really the proper race etiquette, in my opinion, for the 450 class. That's more like 250 type riding right there. You know what I mean? And Barcia's known for that. He still rides it like he's fucking, like it's his first day on a fucking 250, 250 race, going for his first main event ever. That's basically how Barcia rides, but, I just don't think Barcia really has that 450 race etiquette. I don't think he's ever figured that out. I really don't. I don't think he's ever fully learned that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think Roczen would have ran it in on Anderson like that quick right after Anderson passed him. I just don't think that would have happened. I don't think Tomac would have ran it right back in on Anderson like that. Them two boys certainly wouldn't have ran it that high up in the corner right there. I just don't think any of them boys would have done that. Like, you see what I'm saying? Barcia's basically doing something I really don't think too many of the other top guys would have done. Therefore, that's why I say it's more down that not race etiquette, not the proper 450 race etiquette. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm saying, you can be anybody. Like for instance, let me give you another example, right? You can have a roadblock in front of everybody like a Vince Freezy or a whoever, right? And you can have a Villapoto coming through, and Villapoto could be passing somebody like a Vince Freezy, however the hell you say his name, and Vince Freezy could easily run it right back in super far inside on a Villapoto in the very next corner and take him out. It's not like you can't do that on a Supercross track. You can easily do that to anybody on a Supercross track. Anybody can do it to anybody. Some of the slowest riders can do it to some of the fastest riders, right? But you got to have that etiquette to know better in that kind of a situation. I think that's really at the end of the day what it comes down to. But again, I totally understand Rubbings Racing and leave it on the track. I don't think AMA should get involved in any of it. No matter how somebody passes somebody, I'm a firm believer in that. And then you'll get what's coming to you, whether it's a payback in the next race or karma, like what I think has gotten Barcia over the years. But I think it was one of those things. Barcia was like realizing that he was kind of getting outran a little bit, in the overall race. I think there for a minute he was thinking he could have still won the race for a minute. Then he started to realize he was starting to get outran, and then Anderson was on his ass, and it caught up to him really quick. And he thought, man, if I don't make an instant retaliation pass right here, I'm not even going to get on the box. I think that's really what it came down to. But again, Anderson is not. Anderson passed him as clean as he could for the type of track that was. Period. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Like, Anderson passed him as clean as he could. That even on top of everything else, you got to have a little more race etiquette when somebody passes you that clean. Yeah, Anderson did slow up kind of in that corner before to kind of prevent Barcia from doing a instant retaliation in that corner. But again, with the way AMA designed that track, it allowed for Barcia to retaliate in the next corner anyways. And he wasn't even as fast as Anderson. That's kind of a problem, AMA, when you design a track like that where somebody can defend to the point to where like Barcia couldn't retaliate, but then he can still retaliate in the very next corner because of how you design the tracks. I think it's almost more of the track's fault than it is anything. You know what I mean? I really do kind of feel that a little bit, but I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Barcia's Barcia. It is what it is. He didn't blow him off the track. We do have to, even though Anderson fell down or whatever, like, Barcia definitely did not punt him off of the track at the same time. You know what I mean? He didn't do that. But it was just kind of a stupid move in the first place. It's like, you're obviously not faster, but you're just kind of taking advantage of the situation to where you can run it way on up in the inside of the guy in the very next corner, I don't know. That was just a little aggressive for the situation, I would say, for sure. Just kind of unnecessary. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. That's what makes Supercross what it is. So it's going to be interesting in that next race, for sure. But I don't think Anderson's really going to do like a big payback. Anderson's thinking too big for that. I really don't think Anderson is. And Anderson made like a funny post on his, I think it was on Twitter or something like that, where he talked about like, hey man, no love lost or whatever, like go buy some merch or whatever. But it's, Anderson, Anderson's thinking like, dude, I just want to have a good result in this bitch. Like, and I feel like Barcia was kind of over there in the mindset of like, oh my God, dude, everybody's passing me, dude. I have to hold on to a podium right now, dude. You know what I mean? It was just kind of, I don't know. But nonetheless, definitely let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Rubbing's racing at the end of the day, and it is what it is. That certainly wasn't the most savage Barcia pass that I've ever seen in my life. It just kind of one of the more unnecessary ones, I guess is the way I would call it there. But kind of a bummer for Anderson. I think he was really showing a lot of good, overall main event level, composure and all those kind of things. So, but if Anderson's really got it like that, he'll show it in the next 2 or 3 races anyways. So he'll get his time to shine regardless. And Barcia is probably going to fall off the face of the earth when you get 3 or 4 races into this championship. So, you're probably not going to have to worry about a Barcia when you get to round 4 or 5. So at the end of the day, it ain't that big of a deal. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, either way, appreciate you guys watching all the videos. Later, dudes.